Ayan, so magandang buhay sa ating lahat. Good morning, good afternoon. Okay, so welcome to our second chapter for our accounting information system. So we are about to discuss the introduction of transaction processing. No? So for today's discussion, okay, we have the following objectives. We have to understand the broad objectives of transaction cycles. Then, to recognize the types of transactions processed by each of the three transaction cycles. Note the basic accounting records used in transaction processing system. Understand the relationship between traditional accounting records and their magnetic equivalents. Be familiar with documentation techniques. Understand the differences between batch and real-time processing and the impact of these technologies on transaction processing. And lastly, be familiar with data coding schemes used in accounting information system. So marami tayo discuss for today. So let's get started. Okay, so let's introduce transaction processing with the use of financial transactions. So previously in chapter 1, no, there are two types of transactions. We have financial, which has an effect on the monetary side, and we have as well non-financial transactions. So let's again recall ano ba yung definition natin ng financial transaction. So it is an economic event that affects the assets or even the liabilities and the equities of the firm. It is reflected in its accounts and is measured in terms of monetary. Okay? So it is, kumbaga, an example of exchange of either services or goods, tama ba? Okay, in basic accounting, that includes most commonly yung mga external parties. Although, alam naman natin na meron din tayong financial transactions inside, no, with the internal parties as well. Now, in this particular financial transactions, no, it has similar types of transactions which are grouped together into three transaction cycles. So, pwede i-group natin yung mga financial transactions na yan into three different cycles. So, we have expenditure, conversion, as well as revenue cycles. So, ngayon pa lang, itong three cycles na to, it will be discussed thoroughly sa different chapters natin, no? So, I think it has around 4 to 5 chapters na mga susunod, no? But for today, these cycles will just be simply introduced to you. Okay, ngayon, pakinggan na natin ano ba yung mga cycles na to in an overview level. So these cycles has two primary subsystems. So unahin natin yung expenditure cycle. So every business, no, begins its activities with either acquisition of goods or even materials, no, purchasing of assets or properties, no, and also labor in exchange for cash. Okay, so this is all about the expenditure cycle, how we spend the money that we have. Now, the two subsystems under this cycle are physical component, which are the acquisition of goods or even services, no, and also financial components, which includes the cash disbursement to the suppliers. So in this particular system, no, the major subsystems of expenditure cycles are technically extension of what will happen in this cycle, no? Yung acquisition of goods as well as cash disbursement. Sir, bakit dito wala yung payables? Kasi hindi na, when we talk about expenditure, is more on about the outflow of cash na titignan dito. Although in between, syempre may mga payables tayo, but the two major components will be the physical as well as the financial components. Okay? So, any questions about it? Although, ito yung dalawang component, pagdating natin sa discussion ng chapter 5 at saka ng chapter 6, madadaanan natin sa loob ng expenditure cycle yung tinatawag natin na purchases o kaya naman accounts payable system, also cash disbursement systems, yung payroll system, at saka fixed asset system. Okay? So, that's all about our expenditure cycle. Another on the cycle would be what we so-called conversion cycle. So, pag sinabi natin conversion cycle in your cost accounting, di ba? It is already on the process of making a particular product, di ba? Kung manufacturing tayo, no, from the raw materials plus the labor, no, and even having already spending the factory overheads, no, then we are already having the production cycle. Now, sorry, conversion cycle. Now, under this conversion cycle, meron tayong two major subsystems, the production system and the cost accounting system. Kaya nabanggit ko kanina yung sa cost accounting ninyo. In the production system, it includes yung planning, scheduling, control of physical product through the manufacturing processes. Okay? So, another subsystem under conversion cycle is yung cost accounting naman, which monitors the flow of the cost information related to production. So, wag nilang isipin na itong conversion cycle ay ano lang ha, di ba, yung conversion cost lang na labor at saka factory overhead. It entails already all of the overall production system at saka yung cost accounting systems natin. And then lastly, we have also the revenue cycle na parang same lang with the expenditure cycle, that we have two subsystems. Now, under this revenue cycle, no, the firm had already sold its finished goods to the customers. Okay, so in this case, we are already about to receive the cash from the goods that we have. Okay, so we have the physical component, which is the sales order processing. So, ipaprocess po yung order ni customer. Okay, later we will be talking about the sales order processing, no? Although in brief lang. Then we have as well yung financial component nun, which will be cash receipts. Again, under it, of course, madadaanan natin yung receivables, di ba? So, kasama na siya dyan sa revenue cycle natin. Okay? So, those are the introductions of our three cycles and their two primary subsystems. So, any question, guys? Sure? Okay. Sige. So, let's try to analyze lang using this diagram or image, no? The relationship between the three transaction cycles. Although kanina naman, kung mapapansin niyo parang process talaga yung from expenditure going to the revenue cycle. So everything, as mentioned a while ago, starts with the expenditure cycle. So we will spend our money in either the materials, the physical plant, the labor, okay? And the output of this expenditure cycle will be the input of our conversion cycle. So in the conversion cycle, we have the production itself at saka yung cost accounting. Now, after the conversion cycle, we have already the finished goods, and this finished goods will be sold. So dun naman papasok ngayon si revenue cycle. And as it was being sold already, it will become cash again, and that cash will be used again to spend, and it becomes a cycle. Amazing, di ba? So parang ano lang to eh. Ito yung tinatawag natin na operating cycle or normal operating cycle in our discussion of accounting, di ba? Okay? So, any questions about your transaction cycles? So, makikita pa natin yung detailed discussion nito, guys, pagdating ng various chapters natin. Okay? So, let's now proceed with next topic. So, next on the bucket is all about manual accounting records. So, hindi natin bibigyan ng malalim na details itong manual accounting records na to ha. Hindi tayo gagawa ng worksheet or whatsoever that you're thinking. No? We'll just try to introduce it because we're starting with the manual process before we proceed to computerized process so that you will know and you will understand ano ba yung connection ng manual doon sa computerized system. Okay? So, in the manual accounting process, diba, it is where we use papers, diba, yung worksheet, the physical notebook, journal notebook, the ledger. Okay? So, yan yung manual accounting records natin. And in this case, we will be talking about the manual accounting records, which includes number one, of course, everything in accounting will start in the source document, di ba? So the source document is the one which is used to capture and formalize transaction data needed for transaction processing. So yung mga resibo, di ba? Yung cheque, the memorandum, the credit memorandum, the debit memorandum, okay? And others pa na inyong naaalala about the source documents. Next, in the manual accounting record would be some sort of product documents. So, the result of transaction processing. So, ano ba example nitong product document natin na it is an output of the transaction, or it is a result of transaction processing. Example of which is, let's say, payroll check, okay, to an employee is considered already a product document. Bakit? Kasi it is already an output of what we so called the payroll system. Okay, compared with the source document kanina, yung source document kasi somehow it is raw, 'di ba? So, ano bang example ng source document natin dun sa payroll system? Pwede natin sabihin yung timesheet ng employee, 'di ba? Yun yung ating source document. Then, as you process it in the payroll system, then meron na tayong payroll check, at yung payroll check is a product document. Okay? And then lastly, no, in our documents would be the turnaround records. Okay, or turnaround documents. So it is a product document of one system that becomes a document, a source document of another system. So yun pala, no? Yung source document kanina na ginamit and process na under the product document, under the transaction processing at naging product document. Now, that product document can be also a source document for another system. Okay, so yung cheque kanina nga, no, it would be already a source document naman for the accounting, no, as a whole in recording. Okay, naman, another example, we have yung the customer receives a perforated two-way billing. Okay? So, the top portion is the actual bill. Tapos yung bottom portion is the remittance advice. So, the customers remove the remittance advice and return it to the company along with the payment or the check. So, a turnaround document contains information about the customer's account to help the cash receipt processing system process the payment. Okay? So, that's another example. So, overall, itong tatlong ito, these are somehow documents which triggers now our accounting process. Okay? Naintindihan yung difference ng tatlo? Okay, another example pa. Let's say, for example, okay, bumili tayo ng, let's say, for example, bumili tayo ng machine. Okay, anong source document natin doon? Of course, resibo. Okay, so yung resibo, no, ipaprocess na yan, babayaran na yan. So, nung binayaran, nakagawa tayo ng cheque. So, the checks, there is a paycheck, no, na babayaran doon sa dealer ng machine. So, that's already, the check is considered already as a product document. Tapos, on the another system, yung turned around document, a product document on one system. So, yung payment, yung check na yon, it would be an input naman doon sa payment system or cash disbursement system natin. Okay? So, babalikan lang natin, let's discuss some sort of the records that we use in our manual accounting system. Now, we have the journals, which are the book of original entry, which entails the record of chronological journal entries. Okay, so meron tayong dalawang types. We have the special journal, which is specific classes of transactions that occur in high frequency. So in your basic accounting, you have discussed maybe yung cash receipt journal, cash disbursement journal, di ba? Sales journal, or even purchases journal. So those are examples of special journals. Now, we have general journal, which are for non-recurring, infrequent, and dissimilar transactions in cases na kaya siya non-recurring kasi in cases that we have special journal, so sa special journal pupunta yung recurring, then yung iba na non-recurring mapupunta sa general journal. But somehow in other manual accounting system, they just maintain one journal, yung general journal lang, and that's okay. Okay, so that's all about journal. Sir, wala na po bang journal sa computerized system? Meron pa rin, pero iba yung um, journal na physical compared with what we have in the system already. Okay, iba yung feeling na nandoon. Okay, in our last meeting, no, I will share to you how our journal in our company, my previous company before looks. No? Okay, another in our accounting record would be yung ledger natin, which is the book of final entry, the book of financial accounts. So again, we have two types of ledger, the general ledger, at saka we have as well um, subsidiary ledger. So a general ledger shows activity for each account listed in the chart of accounts. Diba? In basic accounting, sa chart of accounts, it is the listing of all of the account titles and account number. Then, each of the account titles there will have an equivalent ledger at yun yung general ledger. Okay? And a subsidiary ledger naman on the other hand, shows activity by detail for each account type. So yung subsidiary ledger, this is usually used for what we so-called control accounts. So examples nito would be for accounts receivable o kaya naman accounts payable. Pero in my experience nung nagtrabaho ako, subsidiary ledgers are not only limited for accounts receivable and accounts payable. Actually, on my last position, no, as a fixed asset accountant, we have also a fixed asset a subsidiary ledger. Okay? So, madaming subsidiary ledgers that you can encounter once na kayo nagtrabaho sa companies. Okay? So, any question about some of the manual accounting records that we have? Okay? So, let's have an example of a flow of information from an economic event or a transaction, financial transactions, going into our general ledger na na-discuss kanina. Okay? So, we have the customer's order. Okay? So, once a customer order was being placed, then mag-create tayo ng sales order. And that sales order will act as what we so-called source document natin, and that would be triggering now to have a journal entry. Dahil this is related to sales, then we will journalize it in the sales journal. Okay. On the other hand, kapag meron din tayong sales order, it will be posted immediately as well to our accounts receivable subsidiary ledger. Okay. Then, continuing it, na yung sales journal mapopost sa general ledger. So, periodically, nire-reconcile dun sa basic accounting ninyo, nire-reconcile yung subsidiary ledger ng accounts receivable at saka yung general ledger na accounts receivable. Okay? So, this is just only an example of an economic event, how it works in the manual accounting system, no, up to the general ledger. Okay? So one consideration as well in our manual accounting system is all about audit trail. Ano ba tong audit trail na to? Eventually, yung accounting records natin should provide a way how we could be able to trace it. No? From source documents going to financial statements o kaya naman backwards financial statements going to source documents. So accountants should be able to trace in both directions. So, samplings and confirmation are two common techniques. So, technically, that's all about audit na. No? Pero ang point lang dito sa audit trail na to is that each of this information that we have, no, should be traceable. Diba? Bakit? Kasi so that we can confirm whether it is correct or not. In the basic qualitative characteristics natin, in our conceptual framework, diba? It should be faithfully represented. And our information should be what? Should be free from error, free from bias, or even it should be complete. So audit trails help us to recheck, or even the external auditors, no? Especially para sa kanila na ma-recheck nila kung tama ba yung naka-record or even up to the amounts in the financial statements. So, the point here is that in manual accounting system, we should leave audit trails. No? There should be an audit trail that the auditors could be able to follow in order for them to recheck. Now, pagdating natin later sa computerized system, do we still need audit trail? The answer would be yes. Kasi whether manual o kaya naman computerized system, there should always be an audit trail. Okay? Any question? So for the meantime, we will leave the manual accounting system. Okay, ito lang yung base sa experience ko, no? Kailangan natin na alam ng isang employee ang manual accounting system because no, kahit meron na tayong computerized accounting system, okay, it will boils down still on the manual, no? Kung ano man yung nasa computerized natin, nanggaling din yan sa manual. At saka, ito rin, based on experience, no? Kapag nasira or even nagka-problema yung computerized system, at least you can go back to the manual and do something on the process. Okay? So ngayon, didiscuss na tayo about. Okay, so before we proceed pala, okay, this is just an example, tracing of audit trail, no, verifying account receivable. So yung account receivable natin, control account, nasa general ledger, you can reconcile it on both the account receivable subsidiary ledgers, no, whether financial or even physical. So kung physical ito, you can trace it back sa sales journal, di ba? Kanina on our previous slide, ang sales journal, okay, is the one na in-input natin sa control account. So dapat parehas yung amounts nun. Okay, and even on the sales order, kasi yung sales order, yun naman yung pinanggalingan ng amounts going to the sales journal. Okay? And in terms of financial naman, titignan yung cash receipt journal kasi kung magkano yung na-receive. Okay? And then the deposit slip or even the remittance advice. So, we have various ways how to trace, no, an audit trail for any account. Okay? Pero hindi natin masyadong focusan yung audit trail kasi you will have auditing in the computerized environment in your higher years, and as well you have auditing pa na subject. So we are just mentioning some of it here so that you can understand that in a system, in an accounting information system, these audit trails are also important. Okay? Any questions? So wala na. Ayan. So ito na talaga. We will be transitioning now to our computer-based accounting system. Okay, or computer-based system. Okay, so in a computer-based system, so technically, we have the various features, no, of a computer-based system. So the audit trail is less observable in a computer-based system than traditional system. So na-mention ko sa inyo kanina, di ba, that both manual and even computerized will have audit trail, pero less observable na siya kasi it is innate already in the system. Okay? The data entry and computer programs are the physical trail. So, yun yung sa audit trail natin, yung computer programs natin, kasi the computer program do the recording already or even the processing already up to the financial statement. Pagka-encode mo ng data, ayan, financial statement na siya agad. Okay, and the data are stored in magnetic file. So, parang napakaluma naman ang term na magnetic file, no? So, yes, in entities, they are using yung mga external drives or even mga other online backups. Okay, online backup. So, kagaya nung OneDrive, pero hindi sila nag-i-employ ng mga usually ginagamit ng public, no? But based on experience, they are paying for much on a cloud-based environment. Okay, so the data are being stored in magnetic files. Okay, so another in a computer-based system that we need to understand is that a computer-based system are represented by 4 different types of magnetic files. So, ano yung different types of magnetic files? So, we have number 1, the master file. So, this master file generally contains the account data. So, kung ano yung nasa general ledger or even the subsidiary ledger file. Then, another would be transaction file. So, it is a temporary file containing transactions since the last update. So, examples of these transaction files are yung mga sales order, inventory receipt, at saka yung cash receipts. Okay? Then we have the reference file, okay? So which contains relative constant information used in processing. So yung mga tax tables, reference yun, diba? Yung mga customer's address, o kaya naman another example ng reference files natin is yung mga SSS tables pa, diba? Yung mga PhilHealth in terms of computation of payroll. And then we have also archive, which contains the past transactions for reference purposes. Okay? So, examples of which is yung records of accounts written off o kaya naman mga prior period ledgers. So, next would be, let's talk about documentation techniques. So, documentation in computer-based environment is necessary for many reasons. So, in our practice, no, in my practice before, in terms of systems, computer-based system documentation, no, kailangan yun so that number one, okay, people who are new to the team could be able to understand paano nag-work yung system. O kaya naman even ako, kahit ako na yung empleyado, no, kapag may nalimutan ako on the process, in terms of computerized environment, then I can go back to the documentation and check nasan na ako, ano yung next step. Okay? So that we will not have any problems. Okay, so maraming reasons why we need documentations in computerized environment. Sir, sa manual ba, hindi kailangan ng documentations? Kailangan din naman, pero it is lesser there because of the process is just as simple as recording it and doing the normal accounting process. But in the computerized environment, no, maraming technicalities. So we have 5 documentation techniques that we will run through on this particular discussion. So we have data flow diagrams, entity relationship diagrams, the document flowcharts, system flowcharts, at saka program flowcharts. So let's discuss them one by one. So let's start with the first documentation technique. So let's have the data flow diagram. So ano ba tong data flow diagrams na to? So data flow diagram uses symbols to represent entities, processes, data flows, and entities in a particular system. Okay? So it represents the logical elements of a system as well as it do not represent the physical system. So it's more on logical. So entities in a data flow diagram are external objects at the boundary of the system being molded. So they represent sources of and destination of data. Entities may be other interacting systems or function, or they may be external to the organizations. So yung mga entities na yan should always be labeled as nouns on the data flow diagrams. Data stores represents, okay, the accounting record used in each processes, and labeled arrows represents the data flows between processes, data stores, and the entities. So technically, itong mga data flow diagram symbols na to na nabanggit natin kanina, it represents the entities, the processes, the data flows, at saka data stores ng isang system. Okay? So systems analysts use data flow diagrams extensively to represent the logical elements in the system. Na-mention na yun kanina, and this technique does not depict the physical system. So in other words, itong data flow diagrams na to, itong mga example natin na to, shows what logical tasks are being done, but not how they are done or who or what is performing them. Okay? So bigyan natin ng example, no? Data flow diagram does not show whether the sales approval process is separate physically from the billing process in compliance with internal control objectives. Okay? So these are just symbols representing yung mga nabanggit natin kanina. Okay? Naintindihan ho ba itong data flow diagram natin? Okay, it's a logical element of a system. Okay. Another would be entity relationship diagrams or ERD. So these are documentation techniques to represent the relationship between entities in a system. Ayan, relationship ng entity in the system. Okay, hindi siya kagaya ng data flow diagram na nire-represent niya lang kanina yung entity or process but not necessarily the relationship. Okay, so ayan, nandito na naman si Rhea, di ba? So you have the resources, events, and agents. Okay, the Rhea model version of the enterprise or entity relationship diagram is widely used in accounting information system. So yung tatlong entities under the Rhea model natin, the resources, yung events, and we have the agents. Okay? So under this entity relationship diagram, okay, so cardinality is one which reflects the normal business rules as a organizational policy. Okay, so under itong cardinalities na to, it is under yung entity relationship diagram which represents numerical mapping between entities. Bakit? Kasi when we talk about entity relationship diagram, it's talking about the relationship at itong cardinalities represents the relationship, the mapping, numerical mapping between entities. So, merong one-to-one relationship, merong one-to-many, at saka many-to-many. O, tanong, nasaan ka dyan? Okay? O, huwag kang ngumiti kasi wala ka niyan, di ba? Okay? So, here are examples of the entity relationship diagrams, okay, under cardinalities. Okay, so we have 1:1 relationship, no? Example, sa entity natin, we have one salesperson, okay, which is assigned to one car type. Okay, ngayon, kapag isang salesperson to many car type na yan, then that's already 1:many, no? Pero ngayon, 1:1 lang muna siya. Another example, no, yung 1:many naman, we have one customer and then it could place multiple orders. Okay, this is 1:many. Then we have multiple to multiple. We have many vendors which could supplies the many inventories. Okay, so that's one of the important thing that we need to understand in terms of the ERD system or ERD, no, which is the entity relationship diagrams. So the entities which are physical resources, okay, and the agents of it, no, we have the entity to entity relationship. Any question? Okay, so let's proceed with another example of documentation techniques. We have now system flowcharts. So ano ba tong system flowcharts na to? So system flowcharts illustrate relationship among processes and the documents that flows between them. It contains more detail than the data flow diagram. Yung data flow diagram natin kanina, remember it is what representing the entity, the processes, the output, and the storage. Okay, mas maraming detail kapag system flow chart. It clearly depicts separation of function in a particular system. Okay, so here are some examples of symbol set for representing a manual procedure. Okay, so itong medyo oblong, terminal showing costs or destination of the document and report. Okay, destination. Then we have here parang document. So this is source document. Ito nasa baba ng oblong. Okay, then we have here manual operations, files, accounting record, calculated batch, on-page connector, off-page connector, description processes, document flow line. Actually, this symbol sets na to are general one. Ngayon, if the entity may have different na itsura, then they can do so, provided na yung kanilang gagamitin ng mga symbol sets are, kumbaga, discussed or even explained thoroughly doon sa kanilang documentation. Kasi mamaya, halimbawa, yung yung terminal or destination, pwede mong lagyan ng heart, no? Depende sa entity, no? Pero ito, these are general symbol set and representing manual procedures in a system flowchart. Okay? So ngayon, let's have an example of a system flowchart. Okay? So dun muna tayo sa sales department. So let's just try to translate this visual symbols, this flowchart into ano ba to? Okay. So everything started dun sa sales department when a clerk in the sales department receives a hard copy, okay, of a customer's order by mail o kaya naman manual prepares hard copy of the sales order. So pagka-receive ng sales department, nung clerk doon, nung customer order, okay, magpe-prepare daw siya ng 4 na sales order. Okay, clear tayo. Kaya mapapansin nyo dito, we have documents doon sa symbol kanina. We have sales order 1, 2, 3, at saka yung 4. Nakasama na rin doon sa sales order na yon yung customer order natin at saka yung signed, no? Naka-signed na sales order. So after that, the clerk sends a copy or copy number 1, okay, of the sales order to the credit department. Kaya mapapansin niyo yung sales order number 1, naka-arrow siya, naka-flow siya doon sa credit department, okay, for approval. Okay, pinapa-approve kasi 'di ba? Baka ito ay on credit. Now, the other 3 copies and the original customer order are filed temporarily pending the credit approval. So kaya nandoon yung arrow, no, papunta dun sa N for sales order 2, 3 at saka 4, no, going to N. It's because of the fact na ano ba yung N natin kanina? Ano ibig sabihin ng N natin? So yung N natin dyan is yung file natin. Okay? So, after that, now, the credit department, nandun na tayo sa credit department muna dahil nakapending pa yung mga orders natin or yung sales orders natin. The credit department clerk validates the customer's order against hard copy credit records kept in the credit department. So, out of the sales order, yung data doon, magkakaroon ng credit check, no, mula doon sa credit records natin. Ngayon, the clerk, if approved from the credit department, the clerk in the credit department will sign the copy 1 to signify the approval and returns that particular copy to the sales clerk. Kaya mapapansin ninyo na signed yung sales order 1, bumalik siya doon kay sales clerk. Okay, clear ba tayo? So, tigil ko muna saglit ha. Kaya natin dinidiscuss to so that you can understand an example of a system flow chart. Okay, kasi kapag hinayaan ko lang kayo, okay, bala kayo sa buhay nyo. Actually, marami kayong may encounter na ganito pag kayo ay nasa companies. Na even actually, pag punta nyo sa PUP, you can see some diagrams there, no? Yung citizens charter, okay, which represents yung process na nangyayari. Okay? So, going back in our example, so naka-sales department na yung signed sales order natin kasi na-aprobahan na ni credit department yung credit ni customer. Now, when the sales clerk receives yung credit approval, he or she, no, files the copy 1, okay, and the customer's order in the department. So, the clerk now sends yung copy 2 to the warehouse. Kaya mapapansin ninyo, nadidistribute na yung sales order natin, okay, into what? Going to the warehouse. Yung copy 2, 3, at saka 4, or even copy 2 pumunta sa warehouse, si copy 3 at saka 4 pupunta doon sa shipping departments. Okay. Sir, ano yung A doon? Actually, yung A doon na napapansin niyo na nasa under credit department, pupunta yun doon, parang connector siya, it's a connector going to the shipping department. Kasi ang layo, kapag nilagyan natin ng arrow yan from the sales department papunta sa shipping, napaka layo nung tingin natin, no? Why not put there a connector? Yung A dyan, it's a connector there. Okay. So, i-proceed ko lang yung discussion. So, the shipping department, so nandun na tayo sa shipping department, na-receives na yung copy natin, okay, and the goods from the warehouse Now, attach the copy to as the packing slip. Okay? So, sa warehouse natin, na-pick na yung goods, na-pack na nila, and then, sorry, isi-ship na siya. So, na-pick na ni shipping department yung goods coming from the warehouse. Then, after that, the clerk files copy 3 and 4 in the shipping department. Kaya mapapansin ninyo, after the picking up of goods in shipping department, no, nandoon siya sa connector ng sales order 4 at saka 3. Nandun na siya sa N ulit. Bakit? Kasi nga ho, it will be stored there. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so that's an example. Tapos na-terminate na, 'di ba? Kasi yung particular sales order number 2 copy will be kapag na-deliver na to the customer, then it will be also given to a customer. Okay? So that's an example of a system flowchart. Ngayon, medyo naguluhan kayo siguro sa discussion ko, pero technically the point here is that this system flowchart shows us the start, how the system process um, the particular customer order, no, up to its endpoint. Okay, kasi yung oblong dyan, di ba napansin niyo yan yung sinabi natin kanina na yung oblong na yan that represents in the system flowchart natin as the terminal showing source and also the destination. Okay? So, any questions? Okay, sales lang to ha. Pwede ring lahat ng processes. Let's say, for example, for purchase, meron tayong flowchart, systems flowchart. Okay? Okay, another thing about system flowcharts that they are used to represent relationship between key elements, no? Yung input source, yung program, yung output product of the computer system. As you can see naman kanina, di ba? Tinignan natin yung relationship from the input mula sa customer up to the output, no? Up to the delivery natin. Also, it depicts the media being used, no? Paper, magnetic tape, okay? Magnetic disc at saka mga terminals. In practice, not much different between a document and a system flowchart. Okay, so these are symbol sets naman of, again, additional symbol sets. Now we have the hard copy, computerized process, direct access storage, magnetic tape. So actually, madadagdagan lang ito kasi nga, kanina we have already introduced some of the symbol sets kay natin, o additional lang itong mga ito. Okay. Any questions so far? Ayan. Dumako tayo sa another example or another documentation techniques ulit natin, which is program flowcharts. So ano naman ang program flowchart natin? So this program flowchart, okay, illustrates the logic used in the program. So it's more on logic. Kanina dun sa mga past ano natin, 'di ba, sinimulan natin doon sa data flow diagram, it represents the entities, the process. Tapos we have the entity relationship diagram which shows us the relationship of an entity to another entity using cardinalities. And then we have also discussed system flow charts, diba, which shows us the relationship of a particular representation of a physical relationship among key elements of the system. So right now, itong program flowcharts natin, okay, illustrates naman yung logic, no, used in programs. So here are just some typical example of program flowchart symbols. So yung rectangle represents logical process, yung diamond shape is decision, and also ito ulit, no, terminal start and end operations kagaya rin nung kanina, no, yung oblong. Then we have a parallelogram which is an input or output operations. Then we have also the flow of logical processes. Pero ang pinagkaiba nga niya, it's more on the logic used in a particular program. Okay? So far, any questions po? about this? Wala naman. Okay. So, those were the examples of, or even types of documentation techniques na na-mention natin kanina. Okay? Wala na questions? Sure? Gising ka pa ba? O baka natutulog ka na? Okay? Eventually, itong mga discussion na to ng documentation techniques, no, it will be again discussed on other chapters. No? Gagamitin natin yan as we move forward with various topics pa. Okay? This is just somehow introduction pa lang din. Although, makikita ninyo, ay, parang ang hirap na ito kasi mag-drawing ba ako. In this particular situation, no, alam nyo ba, in the private companies that I have been, itong system flowchart na to is somehow ginagawa ito in collaboration with the IT department. So, kung kabubukas pala ng company, malamang sa malamang magko-collaborate dyan yung mga department heads at saka si IT kasi si IT yung gagawa nitong mga ganito. Although tayo, no, in the accounting perspective, we can do this system design na ganito, documentation techniques na to, so that we can understand how, especially for our accounting system, it works. Okay? So, wala na akong questions. I will move forward to another topic. It's all about alternative data processing approaches. Okay? So, in this alternative data processing approaches natin, okay? Wait lang ha. Okay, ayan. Sorry ha, naglubat si laptop. So anyways, let's continue. So, in the alternative data processing approach, no, we have to discuss modern system at saka legacy system. I know na narinig niyo na si legacy system in chapter 1, but let's try to discuss them. Okay? Not all modern organizations use entirely modern information system. So some firms employ legacy systems for certain aspects of their data processing. Okay? So, unahin natin itong modern system. What are the characteristics of a modern system? So, a modern system tend to be client-server o kaya network-based and process transactions in real time. Okay? So, although this is a trend in most organizations, please note that many modern systems are mainframe-based and use data processing. Okay? It use relational tables. Okay? At saka, it has high degree of process integration and data sharing. So, some of mainframe used batch processing as mentioned to you a while ago. Okay? Comparing it with a legacy system, wherein a legacy system is a mainframe-based transaction. It is also batch-oriented, and early legacy system used flat files for data storage. No, later legacy system use hierarchical and network databases, and data storage system promotes a single user environment that discourages information integration. So, kung maaalala ninyo yung discussion last time nung So, ayan, medyo technical yung mga terminologies dito. Pero let me give you an example. So, one accounting system na alternative data processing approaches na na-encounter ko would have been, una, sa legacy system. So, eventually, yung legacy system, di ba, it's somehow an outdated system already. So, in an Oracle application, actually, you can search it in the internet. Okay? So, we have before a legacy system which is 11i, Oracle 11i. So that's the version of the system. So that's already a legacy system kasi pinalitan na namin siya ng panibago. Nag-upgrade kami into Oracle 12. So yung Oracle 12 natin, it's more on now a modern system compared with the legacy system. So some firms employs legacy system for certain aspects of their data processing, yung mga older versions. Isang reason din, it's because before yung mga computer natin is hindi pa ganun kaayos yung mga operating systems nila. So, kung ano lang yung kakayanin, yun lang yung nagagamit na system. Pero as time goes by, no, na-update yung operating system ng mga computer, then na-modernize na yung mga systems nila. Okay, accountants needs to understand also yung legacy system kasi once a legacy system had being used, no, and even it will be migrated yung tawag namin from a legacy system going to a new system, then lahat ng mga nasa legacy system, ilalagay namin sa new system. Or even kapag merong problem sa new system at kailangan balikan sa legacy system, then at least alam natin kung paano nag-work ang isang legacy system. Okay? Pero most likely ngayon sa mga companies na, lalong-lalo na sa mga matagal nang nag-ooperate at mga bago rin system nila, they are already employing modern system which is client-server based and relational database tables na yung gamit nila. Okay? Any question? Now, another thing that we need also to understand is all about backup procedure. Although, it is important in a computerized system that we will have backup procedure. Bakit? Kasi pag nasira yung system, no, we will have nothing. Diba? O halimbawa, sumabog yung pinaka-main system. O nasa na yung mga ginawa mo ngayon? Diba? Compared it with the manual, okay, meron tayo mga backup documents. Diba? O kaya naman, meron tayong worksheet. We have the physical one. Although, may problema rin naman sa backup procedure sa manual. Hindi lang natin nabanggit kanina, diba? Pag nasunog, wala na. Diba? Pero, let's talk about the backup in a computerized environment. So, destructive updates leave no backup. Okay? So, kapag halimbawa, nasira yung system, diba? Kapag hindi maayos yung backup procedures mo, then most likely you will have a problem in terms of your data. Now, to preserve adequate records, backup procedure must be implemented as shown below. So, meron tayong master file being updated and is copied as backup. So, generally, in a computerized environment, no, we have yung pinaka-main natin na storage is the master file. So yung main storage natin, which is the master file, should have been updated and copied to backup. So parang gumagawa tayo ng another master file, pero siya si backup, hindi siya real time. Ang nangyayari dyan, kapag halimbawa gumawa tayo ng, let's say for example, nag-accounting record tayo sa computer natin, accounting information system natin, okay, nakapag-input tayo. And then, didiretso agad yung data sa master file natin. And then at some certain point in time, no, pupunta siya going to backup. Pero hindi in real time. Usually, it would take, let's say, a time lag na 1 day depending upon the entity, no, kung paano nila na time lag. Based on my experience, ang ginagawa dun ng mga IT namin is that we have at least every 2 days mula dun sa master file, ina-update siya going to the backup master file. Okay, so depende yun sa entity. Merong daily, pwedeng after the end of the day, pupunta agad siya sa backup, lalo na kung medyo sensitive yung mga data at madaling masira yung system. Okay, so take note lang that the master file, as remembered kanina, includes all of the records natin, should be updated and is copied to the backup. Okay, and a recovery program uses the backup to create and pre-update version of the master file. Important yan guys, lalo na kapag yung system natin is hindi reliable. Okay? So, we have a diagram here, no, just showing it, no. So, yung from the transaction, no, ma-update, pupunta yung information ng transaction na yun going to our master file. And then the master file will be updated using what is called a backup program. Then we have a backup master. Tapos nag-recovery program, then we have going back again to the master file. So, nagagamit lang yung recovery program kapag nasira na yung master file. Okay? So, kaya siya bumabalik sa master file. It's because, syempre, nawala yung master, di ba? So, kukunin natin yung data mula sa backup. So, out of the backup, marirecover mo yon, ibabalik mo kung ano man yung na-backup natin na data going to the master file. No? At sana, updated lahat. Okay? Parang sa isang company niyan. Para kang nanakawan kapag nasira yung even yung backup file mo. Eventually, one of my work before is actually recovering data. Bakit? Ano nangyari? Hindi maayos yung pagkaka-backup. Let's say they have their master file. Nandun lahat ng invoices na supporting documents for every transaction. Ay nangyari, yung master file sumabog. Ngayon, nung sumabog yun, dahil hindi maganda yung backup, ito yung problema. Yung backup nila, hindi gayang-gaya mula sa master file. So, nangyari sa backup, sabog-sabog din. So, hindi siya naka-indicate kung anong para saan siya. So, anong nangyari? Inisa-isa namin. So, it took us, it's a project, no? It took us around 1 month to recover around 3 years na data. Okay? Para doon. So, yun yung mga pagkakataon na hindi maayos, pati yung backup plan. Okay? So, take note, pag kayo nasa business, usually naman pag large entities na yan, medyo planchado na yung kanilang backup procedures. However, if you're going to be in a company wherein it just had started, then make sure na yung master file at the same time backup and recovery plan are properly in place. Okay? Any question? Parang, singit ko lang, parang computer ko lang yan, di ba? Pag hindi na-update yung inyong hard drive, yung inyong online drive, di ba? So, at tapos hindi mo na i-back up yung mga important files mo, mawawala. So, ganun din yung mangyari sa isang entity. Okay? Now, going back again to some alternative systems or even classes of systems. So we have batch system at saka real-time system. So ngayon, let's try to understand what's the difference between a real-time system at saka yung batch system. Okay? So let's start with batch processing system. So ano ba tong batch na to? So a batch is a group of similar transactions that are accumulated over time and then processed together. So similar transactions, madami sila din accumulated and processed together. The transaction must be independent of one another during the time period over which the transaction is accumulated in order for a batch processing to be appropriate. Then a time lag, may time lag na nag-exist in batch processing, okay, between the event as well as the processing. So, sir, why is there a need for them to use batch processing? Kasi somehow, the entity, okay, may not have, kumbaga, enough time to have it a real time. Kaya ang ginagawa on a batch system, para isahan na lang, di ba, similar transactions. Example ng batch processing. Okay. So, let's say pumunta ka sa Pure Gold. Try mo. Sipin mo, pumunta ka sa Pure Gold. Di ba? There are so many customers who buys simultaneously. Di ba? So, resibo rito, resibo doon. Di ba? Napakadami natin sales receipts. Isipin nyo na lang, kung yung mga sales receipts na yun, no, i-record agad sa ating accounting record. Is it possible? Yan tanong ko sa inyo. So that's how we see a batch processing. Wherein, let's say for a day, no, at the end of the day, they will have their record, no, similar transactions, sale. Pagsasama-samahin lahat ng record ni cashier 1 up to cashier 10, for example. Okay? So yung total nun, yun na lang i-record as sales. Rather than per transaction, kahit regardless of the amount yan, di ba? I-record mo agad-agad. So, meron nga lang time lag. It's because of the fact na, syempre, from the time that they started up to the closing time, maybe pa nga the following day pa marirecord yun di ba? Okay, so it exists because nga of the fact that we are waiting for all of those similar transactions to be accumulated first. Okay? Even sa payroll, pag nagpasahod, pag nakapagtrabaho yung isa, hindi mo naman siya babayaran ng iba, process lahat, di ba? Pag gumawa ka ng cheque, para sa cheque yun ng buong payroll, sayang yung cheque. Okay? Nagets natin yon. So, in In a batch processing system, so you have various steps to consider. No? Number one, we have what is called keystroke. So, ano ba itong keystroke na to? So, keystroke is a source document which are transcribed by clerk to a magnetic tape for processing later. So, kagaya ng example ko kanina, di ba? So, isipin nyo na lang sa pure gold, no? Yung mga record, yung resibo, yung mga naka-record doon sa computer nila, okay, it will be captured no, into one magnetic tape by a clerk. Then now, edit run. So it identifies clerical error in the batch and places them into an error file. So titignan niya kung may something na erroneous ba doon kasi kapag nagkaroon ng error, then at niran yung batch, then it will not proceed. Okay? Then sort run, it places the transaction file in the same order as the master file using a primary key. Okay? Next would be update run. Changes the value of appropriate fields in the master file to reflect the transactions. Okay? So, to update at saka last would be backup procedure then the master file. Okay. Ngayon, ito, nag-wonder kayo nasaan yan. Actually, nandun yung sa appendix nitong nung book natin ha. So, you check na lang, in-incorporate ko lang itong steps in batch processing. No? So, from the keystroke, nagkakaroon ng edit run, okay, tapos nagkakaroon ng sort run, then nag-update run, then backup procedure. Okay? So, gaya ng payroll kanina, di ba? Ini-encode ni clerk to the magnetic tape, yung payroll, yung mga timesheets natin, ng employees, tapos tinitignan kung mayroong error dun sa batch, nira-run, okay, and then nagsusort, ina-update yung master file, and then nagkakaroon ng backup procedure. So, importante yung backup procedure ha, as discussed kanina. Okay? So, ito lang, no? Ito yung kanina doon sa steps natin using sequential file. Okay, let's say for example, you have the sales order, kiniin mo, okay, yung unedited transactions, ini-edit run natin to catch clerical errors in keying the input, the records, then edit transactions, magkakaroon ng short run or sort run, which kanina rearranges the data by key fields. Okay, then the transactions then update run going to the various backup files. Okay? So let's now have the advantages. Bakit ginagamit ng most of the entities ang batch processing? So organizations can increase efficiency by grouping large number of transactions into batches rather than processing each event separately. So kagaya kanina dun sa isipin nyo na lang no, pagkabili ng isang customer, bumili lang ng isang sabon, okay, 10 piso for example, okay, pumunta pa ng pure gold, tapos tatakbo yung cashier, pupunta sa accounting, i-record yun. Ay, naku, ang trabaho, di ba? Okay, so it increases efficiency. Now, batch processing provides control over transaction process via control figures. Actually, they can check. Bakit? Kasi once it is key in, okay, dahil meron pa yun sa system, pwede kang mag-generate ng overall record nung cashier doon sa example ko kanina, then you can check it kung tama ba yung na-input mo doon sa batch record mo compared it with the total of the batch. Okay, pwede mo kasi halimbawa, mayroon kang system na mag-check ng 10 cashier doon. Pag inad mo lahat, ito dapat yung amount. Okay, pag sinagsama-sama yung mga resibo, then ganito rin dapat yung amount, dapat equal. So there is a higher control in batch processing. Okay? Any questions about batch processing? So, nag-stick na ako sa pure gold ha, pero marami pang examples ng batch processing aside from those sales. Okay, even purchases. Diba? Pwedeng sabay-sabay yan na day, then you can record it at one time batch din. Okay? Sa bangko rin, no, may mga batch processing din na nagaganap. Okay, kung similar yung transactions nila, antayin nila, then i-batch nila yon. Yung mga regarding withholding taxes o kaya yung mga payroll ng mula doon sa mga companies. Okay? Isahan niyo yun, batch processing yun. Okay? So next, let's proceed with another class of the computerized system. We have the real-time system. So in a real-time system, process transactions individually at the moment the economic event occur. So real-time, no, pagka nag-occur na, then immediately we uh, process the transaction. There is no time lag kasi recorded agad siya compared with batch processing na we are waiting for the batches before we can process it. Then generally, it requires greater resources than batch processing since they require dedicated processing capacity. However, the cost differential are decreasing. So, ayun, ang problema natin sa resources, 'di ba? Kagaya nun, kanina sa example ko, pag isa-isa, ilang tao yung i-employ mo just to record it real time. Although sa bangko rin, balikan ko yung bangko, no? It's somehow real-time processing. Kasi si cashier, pagka-input niya, halimbawa, magdideposito si depositor, no? Pagka nagdeposito siya, okay? Yung system natin, pagka-input ni clerk, no? Ni teller, bank teller, nung amount doon sa kanyang system, then it will immediately reflect on our bank account. No? That's an example of real-time processing. And also, oftentimes, it has longer systems development time. Okay, bakit? Kasi nga, it's more on updating it immediately. Yung batch kasi, yung system development nun, medyo much shorter lang ng konti. Okay, let's now have a distinction. Okay, summarize lang natin distinction in terms of data processing ng ating batch at saka real time. Okay, so in terms of information time frame, okay, so for batch processing, lag exists between the time when the economic event occur and when it is recorded. Compared with real time, processing takes place when the event had already occurred. Okay? So, ayan. So, in terms of resources, generally fewer resources in terms of batch, hardware, programming, or even training are required. Kasi nga, let's say for example, kung batch yan, isang tao lang yung magra-run, then you have only one person to be paid. Compared with real time, kung kailangan ng real time, no, let's say 3 or 4 or 5, or group of people needs to update it immediately, then more resources are required. And then in terms of operational efficiency, in batch processing, certain records are processed after the event to avoid operational delays. Okay? Compared with real time, all records pertaining to the event are processed immediately. So, in terms of operational efficiency, okay, so medyo mas efficiency real time, pero although nabanggit din naman kanina, si batch is also operational efficient. Okay? Kaya lang operational efficiency real time, it's because we can see the data immediately compared with batch processing. Okay, so any question about these two computer systems? Whatever you used in the company, okay, for as long as yung data is good, no, walang error doon, then real-time and batch, okay, would suit you. But again, it depends upon the entity that you are in on what of these two are you going to use. Okay? Any question? Okay, lastly, in terms of this system classes, so why there are so many entities which uses batch processing? So AS processing is characterized by high volume, independent transactions such as recording of cash receipts, okay, checks received in email, okay, so dahil high volume, maramihan, then batch processing is more efficient to be used in this case, no? The processing of such high volume checks can be done during an off-peak computer time. Okay? Eventually, parang trabaho ko lang yan, naalala ko lang, no? In one of my work before, no, I am under the general accounting. Okay, pag nag-record kami, US yung client namin, so panggabi, kami, dahil Pilipinas to, umaga din sa kanila, yung nire-record namin ng gabi is actually what had happened the previous day. Okay? Kasi nagba-batch processing kami dun eh. Kasi because of the high volume of records. Okay? Mapapakita ko yun sa inyo sa last meeting natin once I discuss yung paano ko dino-journalize yung sandamakmak na transactions into one. So, batch processing. Okay? So, another is that this is the reason why batch processing may be done using real-time data collection. No? So, most of the entities are using batch processing. Pero again, hindi natin minimenos that some of the entities needs to do as well real-time processing. Okay? Any questions? Wala? Okay. So, konti na lang guys. So, just stay put. Gising ka pa ba? Okay? Tignan mo yung katabi mo. Gising pa ba? Ay, wala ka palang katabi. May something lang. Joke lang. Okay. So, let's now proceed with the last topic now, which is all about the coding in AIS, no? Ano ba yung gamit ng mga ng coding in terms of AIS? So, concisely, no, represents large amount of complex information that would otherwise be unmanageable. So, because of the fact that we have more complex information, okay, that is not manageable, then we use coding, no, to simplify, okay, terminologies or even some of the things that we need to use in terms of our accounting system. Okay? It provides means of accountability over completeness of a transaction being processed. It is also to identify unique transactions and accounts within a file and support the audit function by providing an effective audit trail. Okay, so these are some of the benefits of coding. Okay, we will be discussing now the different types of codes na ginagamit, and let's see kung ano rin yung benefit ng each of these types of codes. So let's start with what we so-called sequential codes. So ano ba itong sequential code? It is a code which represents items in sequential order. Okay? It uses pre-numbered source documents. Okay? Track each transaction processed. It is also used to identify any out-of-sequence documents. Okay? So example of sequential code natin is, diba, yung pag ni-record mo 001, 002, as in merong order, may sequence siya. Bakit? Kasi nga, once that this particular codes may nawawala, ibig sabihin, maybe you haven't recorded another thing. O kaya, example, cheque guys. No, actually, naka-sequential code yun, yung cheque natin. Pag meron tayong hindi nakita doon, ano to, outstanding check pa to, stole check, kaya naman, baka undelivered, titignan mo, no? So, there is something that happens there, okay, in the particular document. It is important in the system, okay, so that you can see also in your record, in the system, no, ano ba to? Ano ba yung kulang? Saan ba ako nagkulang? Okay, baka may sumobra, okay, may fraudulent ba na naganap dito kasi dumoble yung number or what? Okay, however, okay, we have various disadvantages as to the usage of sequential code. So we have various disadvantages naman. So we have, okay, yung arbitrary information. So usually sequential codes carry no information content beyond their order in the sequence. So example nito is a sequential code assigned to an inventory, no, tells nothing about attributes of an item, maybe a size, the material, the warehouse. Okay, so parang ano lang siya, it's just simply a number. It doesn't tell anything about that item. Okay? Another, no, na disadvantage niya is that sequential coding schemes are difficult to change. Okay? So, inserting a new item at some midpoint requires renumbering. Tama nga naman. Pag nalagyan mo na ng sequence yung iba, tapos may nalimutan ka, okay? Ano, ilalagay mo ba sa dulo? It should not be, di ba? Dapat nandun siya sa kasunod nung kung ano man yung kasunod niya supposed to be. So, magre-rearrange ka. Okay? So, those are just some examples of disadvantages of sequential code. Pero kanina nabanggit naman natin that in a sequential code, no, you can track each transaction being processed. Some of the advantages you can reconcile your record over that pre-numbered sequential codes. Okay? Any questions? Next is that we have block codes. Okay? Ano ba to? A block code represents whole classes by assigning each class a specific range within a coding scheme. Okay? It is used for chart of accounts, the basis of the general ledger. Also, it allows for the easy insertion of new codes within the block. Don't have to reorganize the coding structure. Okay, so let's give an example of the block code. Sa banggit kanina, the chart of accounts, no? So, limbawa, sa chart of accounts natin, in the arrangement, di ba, we have asset, liabilities, the equity, then the income accounts, then the expenses. So, let's say, for example, si asset, okay, number 1, yun yung block code niya. So, lahat ng number 1 yung simula, big sabihin, they are all assets. Number 2, lahat nung may starting number na number 2, lahat yun liabilities. Number 3, equity. Number 4, income. Then number 5, expenses. Okay? So, ayan. Tapos yung mga kasunod na number, pwedeng kung ano man na sequence codes na yun. Basta yung unang number, it represents the block codes. Okay? So, allows easy insertion. Okay? Kasi, kapag nag-edit ka, halimbawa, 110 yung cash mo, 120 account receivable, tapos may nalimutan ka, okay, even though seeing the block codes 1 pa rin, kaso yung mga kasunod na number doon lang magkakaroon ng problem. So in the blocking coding system, so it allows insertion of new codes kasi nga the block codes are the same per specific range. Now, some of the disadvantages of these block codes that it's again an arbitrary information. So as with the sequential code, the information content of the block code is not really apparent. So for example, yung account number natin is, let's say for example, 121, which is an asset supposed to be, means nothing until matched against the chart of accounts, which identifies, no, as an asset. Diba? So, kumbaga, parang useless na daw yung information. Although, it makes sense if it is a chart of account. Pero kapag binagsak mo lang basta-basta doon, okay, 1 to 1, ano yan? Okay, so, ayan. So, that's the disadvantage. Pero, marami naman siyang advantage, diba? In a specific use. Okay, any questions? Next, we have group codes. So, a group code naman represent complex items or events involving 2 or more pieces of data using fields with specific meaning. Okay, example of this coding scheme for tracking of sales. Let's say, for example, okay, might be 0409 for blah, blah, blah. Okay, ito na sa screen ninyo. So, yung first 2 numbers represents kung anong store number. Tapos, yung 09 represents the department number. Then, yung 47621, that's an item number. Then, yung 99, that's a salesperson. Medyo, sorry, nagulo yung sa screen na number. Now, okay, so it has a meaning per particular item. So, as an advantage of this group code, no, we have it facilitates the representation of large amount of diverse data. Okay? Another is that the group code allows complex data structure to be represented in hierarchical form that is logical and more easily remembered by humans. Diba? Logical to kasi each of the number represents something in the coding scheme. Kung ano ba yan. Okay, and also it permits detailed analysis and reporting both within the item class and across different classes of items. So, halimbawa, no, kapag tinignan, pag reporting na, okay, lahat nung 04, okay, which represents store number 04, then pwede i-pull out yon. So, hindi kagaya nung iba kanina na dalawang, ano, the block codes at saka yung, what? Block codes at saka sequential codes na kapag, ano na, wala nang ibang representation, okay, wala nang ibang meaning, then, okay, the group codes as well has its own meaning per, okay, per coding scheme. Pero, okay, it is also an arbitrary information in general, no, as a disadvantage. Bakit? Kasi the primary disadvantage of coding is that it results from the success as a classification tool. Because group codes can effectively present diverse information, they tend to be overused. Ayun, na-overused din siya. Okay? This can lead to unnecessary complex information that cannot be easily interpreted. Ayun. Kaya siya naging arbitrary din kasi somehow, if some that doesn't know yung sequencing natin doon sa group codes, then it will doesn't make any sense at all. Okay? Pero na-overuse nga siya as per increasing storage cost at saka nagpo-promote siya ng some clerical error and increased processing time and effort dahil nga dun sa mga combination natin in the group codes. Okay, any question? Next will be we have the alphabetic codes. So it used for many of the same purposes as numeric codes. Okay, but we use alphabetic characters, may be assigned sequentially or may be used in block or even group coding techniques. So it can be assigned na, ayan. It may be used to represent large number of items, which can be represents up to 26 variation per field kasi we have either 26 letters na pwede nating gamitin, no, from A to Z. Now, also another advantage of this alphabetic codes is that using alphabetic characters, it increases the number of possible blocks na ayun nga, 26. Furthermore, two-digit sequential portion of the code has the capacity of more items. So let's say for example, gusto mong isa lang, okay, A to Z lang, you have 26 variation. Pero kapag let's say for example, A to, mas marami siya kasi compared dun sa 1 to 0 natin na, 1 to 9 or even plus 0. So 10 numeric codes natin compared dito sa 26 alphabets natin, 'di ba? So pag sinequence mo siya na A, B, C, D, E, F, G, tapos iba-iba pa kung ilan gusto mo, let's say 5 combinations, then it has so many combination or variation. On the other hand, disadvantage nga lang nitong alphabetic code na to is that one, as with numeric codes, there is difficulty in rationalizing the meaning. So arbitrary ulit, no? Ano to, A, B na to? Wala naman siyang ano sa akin sa alphabet, 'di ba? Wala naman siyang meaning kung ganun lang siya. Ano to, blood type? Okay? Tapos also, users tend to have difficulty sorting records that are coded alphabetically. Yeah. Kasi limbawa, ilang combinations yun, naduduling ka na sa letter compared with the particular number. Although, maganda rin naman siya in some aspects, no? Pero bihira lang ang nagamit nitong alphabetic codes na to. Pwede siyang alphanumeric combination of both the numbers and letters, then it will make sense. Actually, dagdag ko lang kanina, di ba, meron tayong nabanggit about doon sa block codes na ginagamit sa chart of accounts. Based on my experience, no, our chart of accounts is a combination of block codes at saka alphabetic codes. Halimbawa, A, no? A1. Okay, so yung A, asset. L, liabilities. C, capital. I, income. Then E, expenses. So yun yung alphabetic. Tapos yung kasunod na number nun, it represents a block code. Pag 1, kasi let's say marami kaming cash accounts dati. Let's say we have 10 cash accounts. So lahat ng 1 na yon cash accounts. Lahat ng 2 receivable accounts. Lahat ng 3 inventory accounts. So it makes sense na pwede i-combine yung various types of codes natin, no? Either alphabetic at saka blocking codes or even sequential na din in some aspects. Okay? And finally, no, we have mnemonic codes. Okay? So, mnemonic codes are alphabetic characters used as abbreviations, acronyms, and other types of combination. Okay? Then, it do not require users to memorize the meaning since the code itself is informative and not arbitrary. So let's say for example in one pangalan nito, in one entity or one ano ba to, New York. It's one state in US, okay, NY. Okay? So as an advantage of mnemonic code, this mnemonic coding scheme does not require the user to memorize nga the meaning. Okay? Because it conveys higher degree of information. However, no, the mnemonic codes are useful for representing classes of items, but they have an ability, no, which is limited to represent items with a class. So, let's say for example, meron kang nagamit na mnemonic. Okay, you have, let's say for example, let's say for example, AR, accounts receivable ka. Tapos, in one aspect, no, may paggagamitan ka rin ng AR ulit. Okay? Anting receivable. Hindi, joke lang. Pero, let's say for example, you have na mnemonic para sa another terminology na same nung isa. So, magkakaroon ka na ng problem kasi mamimili ka, ay meron na tong mnemonic code na to eh. So, dapat gagawa ulit ako ng bago. So, in some cases, no, nagiging limited tuloy yung availability ng combinations natin. Okay? Pero you can use that if it seems to be unique for your entity na gamitin siya. But nonetheless, yung nabanggit nga kanina, the disadvantage of it is that it has a limited usability and availability. Okay? So, any questions about these codes? Wala naman? Okay? So, I hope na naintindihan niyo yung all about transaction processing. So, actually, hindi lang transaction processing ang naging laman ng discussion natin. Ano ba? So, we have started with financial transactions, the introductions of the various cycles. Then, we have also discussed yung mga documentation techniques. Okay? The computer system at saka manual systems then, the use of real-time, and we have also the use of batch processing, and then the different types of codes. So, wala kayong questions? So, ayan. With that, thank you very much. So, this is chapter 2. And, ayan. So, kung may question kayo, just send your messages to our group chat. Okay? And, ayan. This is Noel Bergonia. Okay? Good evening. Good evening. Maybe good morning or even good afternoon to some of you. Okay? So, see you on chapter 3's discussion.